Hey guys, so I ended up doing a part two, which I didn't expect to, and that's because I just searched for like an hour and a half through my history and just searching on different search engines, and I couldn't find the article that I came across within the last 36 hours where I read about what I had described, those Ukrainian aircraft being shot down with that new Russian missile system. I definitely saw it, okay? But from my perspective, this is a good thing. I mean, because actually, if someone else could find it, I'd like to see it. But that was the beginning of the fulfillment of that prophecy, and I hadn't put the prophecy up yet. So, I mean, either I don't think I imagined it. I think it's just maybe I think that information might have been taken down, or you just can't find it in the West. In either case, from my perspective, it's a good thing because I'm not too late now. But I definitely didn't imagine it. Insomnia is infecting my mind a little bit. Like I'm a little bit cloudy, a little bit of brain fog, but it's not that bad. So I couldn't find the links I was looking for. I did find one, and where a high-ranking Russian military official is talking about how they shot down like 37 Ukrainian aircraft in around 24 hours. But it doesn't talk about the long-range stealth missile thing. I looked for like an hour and a half. Sometimes you just got to know when to give up. So yeah, but from my perspective, it's a good thing actually, because now I thought I'd missed it in the sense that this prophecy had started to fulfill before I'd actually published my video of the details of the prophetic dream warning from God about WW3, where Russia was deploying extremely advanced secret super weapons that the West didn't have the ability to counter. So I kind of wish I'd found that link, but I tried after an hour and a half. Like I'm giving up now, and yeah, I'm pretty sure it happened, but actually it's so low key that there isn't enough evidence for people to see that this prophecy has clearly begun to fulfill. If I have to search for an hour and a half and I can't find the link that I saw about it, so it might have happened, but if it did, it's being so obscured in the fog of war, informational war around this war in Ukraine that basically it's like it didn't happen. So the prophecy still holds. That's what it was shown, and many others have been shown similar things. Check the playlist if you don't believe me. And that Russia has very advanced secret weapons that the West doesn't know about, and then we won't be able to counter many of these things. If you look in that playlist, Robert A. Avila from the channel No Jesus No Peace had a dream where he was showing American generals angry and like losing their, how to put it more politely, losing their minds because they were experiencing this event where they had American aircraft flying in some region of the world, and they were just vanishing and disappearing. And God showed this man, Robert A. Avila, who runs this channel, No Jesus, No Peace, that the Russians had developed this really sophisticated type of missile that could take these aircraft out. And they were invisible to radar, similar to this article that I'd seen. But, look in that playlist, people have been shown like active camo suits, like the kind of thing that you saw in the film Predator that make people invisible, or what else? New kinds of artillery that can fire, reload, and fire again very quickly. Fighter jets with rear deploying defensive missiles to kind of surprise fighter jets that are following them. Like all kinds of stuff. And and another one someone was shown was a aircraft mounted EMP gun that shoots this conical beam of frequencies out. It's an electromagnetic pulse, and it just all the electronics in the aircraft that get caught in this cone of frequencies just shut down, the planes just drop out of the sky. So I also want to point out, just quickly, in that video, I talked about how the West is going to be surprised by what happens. I do want to quickly make a distinction within the Western civilization between the US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Israel, and Europe. Because, to be clear, I find Europe, the hubris, arrogance, pride, and sin and corruption are all much worse in those first 6 countries that I mentioned. The Anglo-Zionist Empire. Tel Aviv, London, and Washington, D.C. are going to pull the West into World War III, and a lot of European countries want nothing to do with it. And they're actually not. They're much more humble, and they're not nearly as arrogant, and prideful and sinful and corrupt as the first 6 I mentioned. They're the real issue, and they're kind of a separate block within our shared Western civilization. And when I talk about the arrogance and sin and hubris and us being taken off guard and Russia being more Christian, I'm referring more to those 6 countries rather than the rest than Europe. I get pretty good energy from most people in most European countries, and they are more spiritual and godly just in general. And it's so, yeah, a lot of them don't even want to be dragged into World War III, but they're going to be, because they're vassal states of the United States. And in some ways, it looks like actually Israel really controls the US. Israel, because they can control US politicians. But it's, in any case, London, UK, Washington, D.C., the United States, and Tel Aviv, Israel, they are going to drive the entire Western civilization into World War III. So I want to make a distinction talking about how the Russians are more spiritual and spiritually advanced and more Christian than us in the West. When I'm talking about us in the West, I'm talking about those 6 countries, the Anglo-Zionist Empire, they're driving it. I think we kind of deserve what's coming to us, and we need to sort of be purged, and we are less Christian, we are more ungodly than Russia, but Europe is different. Yeah, there's a lot of countries in Europe that are very positive, probably more positive than Russia, I would say. I mean, like Spain and Germany, I would definitely say that. And others, like the Netherlands, I would say many countries in Europe, or at least if not more positive and Christian and godly than Russia, then close to or near it, peers. But yeah, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, the UK, US, and Israel, godless, brutal, arrogant, prideful, sinful, no comparison. So it's not surprising that Russia would have much more advanced technology, because they're much more advanced spiritually. I'm not talking about politics here, but like as a country of people, they're just much more Christian and godly and virtuous. Like most of them are Orthodox Christians. And yeah, the Russians have done war crimes, but when you're as godless as those 6 countries, Anglo-Zionist Empire and the Anglo-Zionist Empire are, you're just so corrupt, and Russia is the lesser of 2 evils. So it's important for me to point that out. Yeah, but so in summary, I couldn't find the evidence. I talked about those stealth missiles being shot from 400 kilometers away that Ukrainian pilots couldn't see coming. I did see it, but that's fine, because I'm confident this prophecy will fulfill in time anyway. I think that happened, but in the informational warfare, that article I think got taken down, and you can't find it on the Western internet, at least not easily. I tried for 90 minutes and I just gave up. So yeah, I wanted to make the distinction between the Anglo-Zionist Empire and Europe within our shared Western civilization, because Europe's not as bad, and I get pretty good energy from most of Europe, but I kind of disowned myself from New Zealand because it's so corrupt by this point. I just want nothing to do with it. Quite frankly, at this point, we're at a stage where Russian nukes would be an improvement. So, okay. Thanks, guys. And yeah, I'll leave it there. Cheers. Okay, if I have time, I'm also going to recommend a book. I talked about the Spanish conquistadors conquering Mexico in the previous video. There's a really good book by John Hemming. I think it's called The Conquest of the Incas. And I read it when I was living in Vilcabamba, I read parts of it, and it's described as pretty much the best historical account of what happened, and both in terms of readability and scholarly research. And he actually tries to look at what happened from a native and indigenous point of view as well, not just a European point of view. And it's an amazing book. A lot of the stuff I talked about in the previous video about what I'd learned about the Spanish conquistadors, I read in that book. It's amazing. I highly recommend it for anyone interested in that period of history and the culture and geography and history of Latin America. And it's also just a fascinating account of a clash of two extremely different cultures, and with one being much, much, much more technologically and scientifically advanced. It's as close as anything has ever come in Earth's history, recorded history, that is, to, humans meeting technologically advanced, aggressive aliens. That's honestly, like, it was almost that different. Like, it was like just space aliens with laser guns showed up. They were so, the technology was so far ahead of the Aztecs and the indigenous Americans, the Native Americans that they encountered in Mexico and Peru. And this book just covers the Spanish conquest of Peru, but same group of people, Spanish conquistadors. So highly recommend it if you're interested in that period of history. All right, thank you. Cheers.